Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Really sorry in the delay of videos. I've been super busy recently. I've just been on holiday, as you can tell from my tan. I've been really busy with my work, and also my band has just released a new single. So if you're into indie pop music, please do give the song a listen. I'll leave a link down below. It's actually the music that I use in the intros and outros, so if you're interested, please do check it out and let me know what you think. But let's get into today's video, because when I was sat on the beaches on holiday, I was thinking about this in particular and doing a bit of research and realising that it could potentially be a cure for multiple sclerosis going forward. That's actually really simple in terms of how we can get more of it, and it'll be so much simpler than all the drug modifying therapies, which are currently the best form of defence against the disease, and all they do really is slow down the progression anyway. So let's jump into the video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this about my journey with multiple sclerosis.
I used to like seeing you in town. Now it's strange when you're not around. I used to like seeing you in town. Now it's strange when you're not around.
So let's get into the video. This cure for multiple sclerosis. So it's essentially not really necessarily a cure, but a lot of people are suggesting that going forward, this will be a cure for a lot of autoimmune diseases. And what I'm going to talk about today is vitamin D. Now, obviously, this went through my mind when I was on holiday, because I was spending a lot of time in the sun, thinking about the sunlight, and it led me to do a bit of research, and I came across the Coimbra protocol, which is a protocol specifically for MS and autoimmune conditions. And what this is it's a really high dose vitamin D, where you take around 40,000, upward of 40,000 IU a day, which might sound like a crazy amount, because I mean, I'm currently taking 4,000 a day, and that seemed like a lot considering a lot of the guidelines are much lower than that. But there's more and more evidence coming out that we can take a lot higher dosages of vitamin D than is currently widely accepted. And so why is it then that vitamin D seems to have such a profound effect on the development of multiple sclerosis? Because it was first discovered really because researchers noticed that the vast majority of people who contract MS are people that live far from the equator. So essentially, the closer you are to the equator, the lower your risk of developing MS. And obviously this is really quite interesting, because we don't know a lot about why people get MS. There's obviously a genetic factor, and then there's environmental factors as well. But this was one where there's a direct, clear correlation between where you actually grew up in the world, so how much sunlight you actually got during your childhood years potentially, and the chances of you getting MS. And so this is really interesting. You can literally look this up now if you want to just Google it. But you'll see that basically near the equator, hardly any people get MS. So this is something that definitely does need to be looked into further. So the reason why vitamin D plays a pivotal role in this disease is because vitamin D interacts quite a lot with the immune system. It actually acts more like a hormone in the body, and so it affects different receptors, it affects the way the immune system goes out, and it essentially suppresses the immune system to an extent. It kind of controls it a little bit. That seems to be the effect that vitamin D has on the immune system. That means that people that live further from the equator, they see less of the sunlight, and so they're getting much less natural vitamin D, and so this could be a reason for them developing MS. And to compound this even further, countries that are further from the equator also tend to be more developed nations, because you've got countries like Canada, US, United Kingdom, Northern Europe, Australia down in the southern hemisphere. It just tends to work out that way, that the countries that are further from the equator also are more developed nations. Obviously there are exceptions to this rule, but just a general rule of thumb, that tends to be how it works. And so this has this compounding effect that in these more developed nations, these are places where we are indoors a lot of our lives. We tend to work in offices. We tend to always have shelter. We're not really, a very small percentage of the population are actually working outdoors, on the land, farming, agriculture, that sort of thing. It has this compounding effect of the fact that people in these countries are both further away from the equator, so the sunlight is not as strong and you get less sunlight in those countries, and then people are also hoarded up indoors as well. I always like to revert back to thinking, how did our ancestors live? Because that's essentially how our bodies evolved, was to live like how our ancestors used to live. And obviously those people would have spent a lot of their time outdoors, and so they would have got plenty of sunlight because they didn't have things like houses, offices, shops. People were spending a lot of times outdoors, so they were probably getting more than enough vitamin D. Our bodies learned to survive and to thrive with a high amount of vitamin D. But nowadays, you take away that vitamin D, and that's where the body goes a little bit AWOL. The immune system doesn't really know what it's doing. It goes autoimmune and starts attacking itself, and that's why we get these autoimmune diseases like MS. Dr. Coimbra developed this protocol where patients were taking upwards of 40,000 IU a day, up to about 200,000 IU, which sounds crazy. And obviously, if you're going to try anything like this with high dose vitamin D, make sure you do it with a healthcare professional by your side, monitoring your levels, etc. But from his work, he showed that it had massive effects on people with autoimmune diseases and people with MS especially. This has led to the belief, and a lot more people are thinking nowadays, that high dose vitamin D could be an effective cure, or if not a cure, then at least a help in patients who have MS. And so this is definitely something to consider, I think, going forward. Is it a 100% cure? I don't think there's enough evidence out there as of yet to say that, but maybe in the future that will be considered a complete cure for MS. I saw another good video on YouTube that was describing scurvy back in the 1800s, I think it was, when scurvy was rife with sailors. And it actually took sort of over 150 years for people to widely acknowledge that vitamin C was a cure for scurvy. That was despite people, they used to give sailors orange juice in their drinks, and it would basically stop them from getting scurvy, but it still took them all those years to basically for the whole medical community to agree that vitamin C was a cure for scurvy. The video that I watched was comparing that story with the one of vitamin D, and that maybe in 100 years' time, people might see vitamin D as the obvious cure for autoimmune diseases. Maybe everyone will be cured from every autoimmune condition. Who knows? But I think there's a lot of evidence out there that it at least plays a vital role in the disease. For any MS sufferer, you should definitely be considering taking a vitamin D supplement, and maybe looking into the Coimbra protocol if you want to try something different with how you're tackling the disease head on to try and live the best life you possibly can. As you can see, maybe I took this to the extreme on my holiday and got a bit too much vitamin D because I've caught the sun quite bad. Well, good or bad, whichever way you want to look at it. I've got a crack in tan, let's say that. But there's also evidence to show that it's not just the vitamin D from sunlight that influences your immune system, but just sunlight in general can have positive calming effects on the immune system. And also there's been research that actually getting sunlight on your stomach can improve your gut microbiome, crazily, which I don't really know how that works, but there's evidence that shows that. And obviously we do know that the gut plays a big role in a lot of autoimmune diseases. And also I just wanted to take a quick moment here to say that I'm running out of ideas for these videos, so please do leave some comments below of what you want to see in the next video, and I'll make sure I get it done. And I'll do it a bit quicker than the gap between this and the last. There's a lot of benefits to be had to getting more sunlight. So how do we get more vitamin D? So there are various different ways. The first of which being supplementation. So you can obviously buy supplements over the counter or from Amazon or anything like that. I'll leave a link in the description to the vitamin D supplement that I use, which is just from Amazon, fairly cheap. This is probably the easiest way just to top up your levels, because obviously it is quite hard to get the right amount of sunlight. Which leads on to the second point, which is obviously you can get more sunlight. So you can just try and focus on spending more time outdoors, going for outdoor walks. Try and expose yourself to the sunlight for long periods of time, because your body actually synthesizes the vitamin D from sunlight much more efficiently and much more effectively than it does from supplementation. And so this is the #1 way to get more vitamin D into your body, is just by spending more time outdoors, exposing more skin to the sun, obviously being careful, you don't want to get burnt, I was very careful on my holiday. I wore a lot of SPF. I was just there for about 10 days. That's why I've got such a good tan. But yeah, this is definitely the #1 way to get more vitamin D into your body. And then the third is from food. So foods like mushrooms, eggs, some meat as well, good quality meat. This can also boost your vitamin D levels, but you're going to struggle to get all your vitamin D requirements just from food. So you definitely need to focus on the first two, supplementation, and spend more time outdoors in the sunlight. So what do you guys think? Do you think vitamin D plays a massive role in MS? Could it potentially be a cure for MS going forward? High dose vitamin D? Who knows? Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, and if you're thinking of upping your vitamin D dosage as well. And also please do let me know in the comments what you're currently on vitamin D wise, what your dosage is, because I'd love to know where my level sits with other people. So I hope you found the video interesting. Please do make sure you like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this about my journey with MS. I'll see you in the next video.
I used to like seeing you in town.